There is one variable that predicts long-term success better than intelligence. It predicts it better than talent, than strategy, and better than resources. And that is character. The one difference between the society that stands and the one that collapses. It is the difference between a marriage that lasts for 6 decades versus the one that ends in a matter of months. It is the difference between the team that holds together and succeeds and the one that implodes. Character is the difference. Every time, at every horizon. My name is Colin Charles. This is Enoch Marketing. We're covering Law 4 of Robert Greene's book, The Laws of Human Nature. So what are we talking about today? Robert Greene opens with Law 4, with a principle that sounds simple, but cuts deep. And that is that you cannot know a person's character until something has tested it. And that anyone can perform well when everything is fine. And the mask holds up calmly when everything is good. But when the pressure is on, and the stakes are real and have real consequences, the mask comes off. And what you see underneath is character. You are not going to change a person's character. You're not going to be able to develop it for them. Your job is to read it accurately before you bet on it. Character is the clearest example of something that is both determined by our nature and something that we can develop through our choices and actions. That last part is from Robert Greene in his book. Now, Greene goes further than most thinkers on this, but I want to take it even a step further than Greene. Character is not just one predictor amongst many. And for the sake of the following argument, we're going to describe character as one's ability to face reality and their resiliency in light of reality. Character is the best predictor of success. A society that has a strong collective character that honors hard work, accountability, and honesty will stand. The one that abandons those values will collapse. And history has not presented a single exception to that pattern. Similarly, a marriage that endures is the one where both people have the character to show up for one another when times are hard. Not when it's easy. In fact, most of us will not understand what true love is until it's been tested by fire. Love endures, and infatuation falls by the wayside. The teams that win, not only in sports but also in life, are not always the ones with the most talent. It is oftentimes the one with the strongest character. There was a gentleman named Collins who documented this in a book called Good to Great. We covered it back in phase 1. And, side story, there is a survey that oftentimes special forces do when they are going through training, where they rank a person's ability in conjunction with their trust ability. And if they are a high performer but they're not trustworthy, they won't make the teams. And finally, in businesses that last, much like CrossFit or any business that builds a real community, or even the agency that earns genuine trust, it is all surrounded by people of strong character. Character is the differentiator, full stop. So how do you actually read a person's character before the pressure arrives to reveal it? And the answer to that is this. You have to look for evidence of how that person has handled pressure in the past. And the single most revealing question that you can ask is this. Tell me about a time that you failed. Now, in an interview, most people don't go this way. They talk about their strengths, they talk about goals, they ask where someone sees themselves in 5 years. And those questions tell you how a person presents themselves. You get a very clear picture of the mask that they are wearing. The failure question tells you who they actually are. Because failure and tragedy is the X-ray of character. And how someone narrates their experience in failure and tragedy reveals everything you need to know. Now, there are three types of answers. The first one is they're going to either hide, deflect, or pass the trouble to someone else. That shows that they are lacking in strong character. They're weak. They deflect, they minimize, they pass the blame, and that should be a disqualifier. Because someone who cannot stand up to their own failure cannot be trusted in any failure of yours or the team's. They will push it away. They will not help. The second option is they're going to own it. They're going to name what happened, they'll probably take responsibility, and they won't deflect. No blame is transferred. That is a green light. And that is someone who has a relationship with reality. And lastly, and most importantly, they'll show how they were in it, how they moved through it, and how they resolved it. They name what happened, they own their role in it, and they describe what they did to address it. And that is the gold standard. That is someone who not only faces reality, but acts upon it. And that is the person that you're going to want on your side when invariably troubles come your way. The willingness to be seen in failure, and by that I do mean to stand in it without hiding, is one of the clearest character signals. It communicates to the interviewer that the person has something real to them that exists behind the mask. This question requires one thing that people with weak character cannot produce, and that is accountability. Now, there is a difference between responsibility and accountability. Responsibility is your ability to make a response. Now, if you're really to break the word into parts, it's that literally. Response, ability, the ability to make a response. And it's proactive. Accountability is the ability to give an account truthfully. It's reactive. Accountability is the ability to tell the truth of what has happened or what is happening. It is worth repeating. Every moment of accountability is a check on reality. And every check of reality is a test of a person's character, because one's character is the ability to face reality. Without character, a person cannot take accountability for their own life. And if one cannot face the reality of their own lives, not only are they powerless in their own life, they are also subject to the mercy of fortune. And fortune looks unfavorably on all those who choose to live in lies, whether those lies be it by deception or omission. Truth is found in accountability. Accountability is found in character. And on a lighter note, rarely is anything fatal when you take accountability early. If you face reality when problems are small, they don't turn into unsolvable problems. However, if you turn a blind eye or choose to deny the truth, everything will get worse. Rarely does a problem get better with time. It's always better to just face it. And a person's ability to face accountability is the foundation of good relationship. And we all know multiple people who do not have the ability to face reality or accept their own accountability. And we all know what it's like to deal with those people on a regular basis. You know who you are, and if you don't know who you are, it's probably you. Now, accountability, again, is the willingness to confront reality and the role that you played in creating it. It is owning your shortcomings. It is owning your role in what went wrong. It is owning the gap between who you are and the role that you are performing. And the person who cannot take accountability is not just avoiding blame. They are choosing blindness. They are deciding that their own self-image matters more than the truth. And that decision, made consistently over time, makes them fundamentally untrustworthy. Because if they cannot confront their own reality honestly, they will conflate and make yours worse. Accountability is fundamental in any team dynamic, and every business is a team dynamic. The bill of accountability will come due. And if you don't have the ability to take accountability, then you don't deserve to be on the team that needs it. It's immature, it's childish, and it doesn't do you any service to deny accountability. It only makes you the liability that says you need to be removed. Now, know that for when things get difficult, because things will always get difficult. And you need someone next to you who can see things clearly. And someone who is not protecting their image. Someone who can face reality. Robert Greene writes that when you fail, you have two paths. One is to deny it, to blame others, and to learn nothing. And the other is to accept it, to analyze it, and to transform it into wisdom. Now, with this being said, let's be perfectly honest about something. We oftentimes have been taught that if we just look the part and don't take our accountability, then we'll be able to get along because we don't look bad. But I'll tell you something, it's not the person that looks bad that gets cut, it's the person who doesn't get seen who gets cut. It is better to look bad in honesty and make up for it and to grow than it is to be quiet and in the background. It is always better to just own what you did. And when you build the character to own what you did when times were bad, it will shine twice as good when the time comes to take accountability for what went right. The value is not in appearing good. The value is in being good. And you learn to be good through the trials that come and the growth that comes from repetitively taking accountability. It is the quickest way to grow. It is the quickest way to success. It is the most surefire way to success. And any organization that rewards the lack of accountability and chooses to take either the path of deception or the path of covering up with lies and politics is destined to fail. They are institutions, teams, societies, governments, and relationships that are built exclusively on lies that avoid accountability. And I will stand 10 toes down on that. That is the beginning of the end. Because only the institutions that are built on the sturdy foundational rock of truth will stand when the storm comes. That is imperative. If you can't take accountability, whether or not you are doing it intentionally or by omission, you are building your house on a lie. Take accountability. Build the character, tell the truth. I think I beat that up enough. So, with this next bit, we're going to talk about proximity, because proximity is also a part of it. Putting this most directly, familiarity breeds contempt, but distance makes a heart grow fonder. If you are in close proximity with somebody, you will be able to see more of their flaws. You'll be able to see the truth of what is going on. The more intimate you are, the more dirt you are going to see. That is every relationship, not only with people, but also with institutions. As a person who is an officer in the military, you get to see the real dirt behind what the military is and what it's doing. Yes, it is an honorable profession. It is something that our society values, but there is some dirt in there. And the closer you are to the dirt, the more you're going to see. When I was in the Air Force, working for the colonel, who has been the string of these conversations, he had an excellent reputation amongst the captains across the region. We all admired him. And as soon as you got to work with him, you got to see the real person. And that dude, besides being one small, narrow mustache away from being Hitler, was everything that I thought he wasn't. He was outrageously good at wearing the mask. And that character gap led to the breaking of the relationship. Now, with that, we're going to make it an easy transition into my thoughts because we're tying back the story. When I was working in that office, which I do not recommend if you've listened to these string of things, I wouldn't recommend anybody working in this environment. I wouldn't want to work in an environment like this. The Air Force organization the part we were doing, that was going through a lot of reorgs. There were some changes at the top. Everyone was changing offices in the middle. In the summers, we oftentimes change. And it was a lot of work. It was a lot of travel. It was a lot of organizing. It was just a lot of pressure. Everything was moving at once. And it was the kind of pressure that reveals character, because there's no time to manage the performance. And when that happens, the real person will show up. And that commander showed up too. He wasn't one to yell per se, but he would raise his voice. And he would go on these long diatribes and monologues. And we just sit there and listen to whatever he was upset about. And he did it in a way that made the people around them seem less. He wasn't someone to build others up. He was one who tried to make other people smaller. And honestly, the dude had the emotional intelligence of like a pygmy goat. But here's what made that revealing, right? And it's not about the monologuing. It's the gap between his reputation with the captains and the people at the lower ranks, and his reputation amongst the people who were most intimately working with him. The people at the lower ranks didn't see him frequently enough to know the truth. And he was very good at playing the charismatic, fun guy when he was with the guys on the front lines. And we liked him. But the colonels, the ones who saw him behind closed doors, the ones who did check-ins with him, the people with the real authority, they didn't trust him. And that's part of the proximity problem. The closer you are, the more you were going to see, obviously. Now, I know this because as the person who was the executive officer, I, leaning on my relationships, regularly checked in with all of the commanders, like weekly, sometimes multiple times a week. I'd be on the phone with these guys, or I'd be on the phone with the execs and the different people across the region. I made it my business to know what everyone was and where they were doing and how they were connected, which is powerful. And that's not because anybody asked me to. There's no protocol on that. It's because the real information that you see is going to come out between people's words. And I could listen to that. And what I heard, and the murmurs, and then the things that people said carefully, and the pauses between certain answers, was one consistent picture. That we were being led by someone who was irrational and unpredictable, and was someone that you could not rely on when it mattered. Now, to his credit, he was going through some stuff outside of work, and I recognize that. But I still hold the same standard. Because your character doesn't shift where you are. Your character is not what you demonstrate when things are good. Your character is what specifically happens when you demonstrate your circumstance when it's the hardest. And your context is not your character. Your character is what you do with the context. I've been super negative about this office and this boss. And, reasonably, if you're getting gaslighted every day and he's going out of your way to gossip about you and he's making sure that you fail by ignoring your messages and blaming it on you and constantly threatening to fight you, I think that's reason to be so. I want to make this 2 points, right? One, the dude was very intelligent. He was very smart, and he did have some golden nuggets of wisdom that he passed on. And I'm glad that I got those. And our region was easily the best performing region of all of the regions in this organization. And I try not to say names, but I will in this particular case. That wasn't because of this low character, emotionally unintelligent boss. It was because his deputy, his name was Dave Devlin, his deputy runs all of the civilians. Dave Devlin, uh, he's a funny guy when you get to know him because he doesn't come off very funny at all. He barely opens his mouth and he kind of walks and he talks. His voice is kind of like this. And when he moves his entire body and he doesn't really look around. So the first impression of him is kind of intimidating. And he's sharp on his stuff. But after getting to know Mr. Devlin over the course of those years, I would be hard pressed to name very many leaders who are better than him. Dave Devlin was not only just a genuinely good man, he had a clear way of running business. He put the right people in the right places. He was honest. He was tough when he needed to be. He was caring. He would give you the shirt off of his back. He would stop and listen to you when he needed it to. And you know what? I don't know, lockjaw included and all of those things. He was one of those leaders. Right now, if he said, hey, I need you to walk to San Diego, I would get my boots on and go because I trusted him that much. And that resonated through with his team who were in charge of their different organizations. And then that resonated to the rest of the region. And the reason that the region performed so well, was because they had an excellent leader at the top. That was Dave Devlin, who could compensate for the other guy. Excellent leader. And he told me something once before I had left, that be very careful about the people that you put around you. Be very careful about the team that you build when you're hiring. So when I moved over to doing my own business and I was hiring people, there was only one person that I didn't interview with. And I always ask the people, tell me about some time that you failed. The one person I didn't interview with, I think, was the greatest inhibition to the team. Because he never told me of a time we failed, so I never checked his character. And he really was undermining the team. He was leading them poorly. He was not holding certain people accountable. He was gossiping about others. And I should have seen that coming because I didn't test his character. He eventually got removed, as well as several other people who didn't deserve to be removed. They were just managed poorly by this person. But who remains? Man, the team that remains, I would go through hell and high water for those two. I would do whatever it took to make sure that they're okay. And we might be in a kind of a tight situation based upon the way that things are working. And that's not a problem with our business. Our business is working excellently. Just more geopolitical stuff because they do live in different countries. But not only am I honored to call them teammates, but I would be even more honored to call them friends. And the team that I built based on Dave Devlin's recommendation and wisdom, I would happily take with me for the rest of my life. And I hope one day that I will be able to get them in a position where they'd show up at my wedding if need be. I would want them to be there and to be known when I had a child, and they would be able to know those child as auntie and uncle. They are the best, some of the best people I've ever met. And that's a matter of character. And because we led with character, the rest of it really took care of itself. Because you can't train character. I could teach you how to use AI all day. I could teach you how to do, meta ads and Google ads. You can read a book and be able to understand some of these concepts, but I cannot change your character. You have to be able to show up with that. And these two that I have now have the character. The people I was working with in the office with all of these stories didn't. And they paid for it, and so did the rest of us. Now, let's get back to the story, because we need to get into why you should care. And I'm bringing this into your business. There are places where character shows up where most gym owners never think about enough. And that's hiring and marketing. On hiring, the next coach you bring into your gym will either strengthen your community or fracture it. There's only two in between. There's only two. And you will not know which one until the pressure arrives. When there's the hard class, the difficult member, there's the injury that happens on their watch, or the conflict with another coach, invariably it's going to happen. Side story, I remember being a coach back at CrossFit Lomita, and coaching was going great when I was doing it. People were growing up. More people were coming to my classes and were hitting better PRs. We'd warm up a lot so people were healthy. And I had this joke that I thought was funny. I was younger at the time, where I would like throw a marker at somebody if they were doing something dumb, but I would also be like horrible aim, just intentionally like missing them, but they would know that like, I'm throwing something at you, which was great until this girl ducked. And she ducked and she stood up at the wrong moment, and the marker hit her in the head. Oh, she was pissed. I felt horrible. That's not what got me fired. I'll share the story of what got me fired another day. But I did that. I own it. And I apologized emphatically for a long time. I apologized to her. I apologized to her husband. It was a whole thing. She ended up leaving the gym because she had other drama, because she took some things out of proportion, if I'm being honest. But it's funny in hindsight. And you'll have stories like that where something goes wrong. It's not something super serious. Again, that was, 5 years ago? I messed up. I own it. I'm not perfect. But you'll have experiences where something silly will happen. And when something silly happens or something bad, there's a conflict with another coach, or you get injured, or you throw a marker at somebody and you hit them in the head, you can't wait until that moment to find out who people are. You have to ask the failure question and test that character before you offer the position. And think about it. Just ask the question, tell me about a time where you failed as a coach. And watch what happens. Apply the 3 responses. Do they hide? Do they own it? Do they resolve it? The energy and presentation can absolutely be faked, but character cannot, or at least not for long, and it won't be faked under real pressure. Vibes attract. Character retains. Now, on marketing, and this connects with everything that we've built across these 2 phases, your marketing is a character signal, whether you know it or not. The gym that shows up consistently with the same voice, the same values, the same standard across every piece of content is demonstrating character. As we talked about last time, right? We have to be able to tell a coherent story. And we tell that coherent story because it resonates with the heart and the mind. You need both parts. And the gym that posts what it feels like in accordance with what it assumes that the audience wants is not doing the marketing well. Now, that's a nuance. You have to be very clear about this, right? You can post to their needs. You can't post what you think they want to hear, right? If you are in a position to authentically post to their needs, authentically, then you're going to build that consistency which they need in order for you to be successful. Conversely, if you're throwing something out there because it sounds good, it will not land. And when they show up, you will immediately be tested. And if you do not have what they need consistently, you will not only lose them as a customer, but your reputation will suffer as well. And it is important when you are in business that you maintain your reputation, because people buy your reputation. They don't buy your product. Any gym can offer fitness stuff. It is your reputation that will keep people with you. The other side of that is this, right? You got to learn to start turning some people down. And that's a very odd thing to say. Most people don't want to say that because we live in a society that is so centered around money that we're willing to look past the character of our potential clients because they're going to pay us. I'm going to tell you the truth. Some clients are not worth the money. I've had a few, you know who you are, who cost more in emotional strain, disrespecting my people, being just extra, that it wasn't worth keeping them. And quite frankly, you got to learn how to fire some clients from time to time. That is the best way forward. You got to know both. Now, naturally, we are not going to end this without talking about Pork Post Pete. So, Pete is hiring a second coach. He found someone through his CrossFit network. They're young, they're enthusiastic, they have great energy in the gym, and the members already like them. Pete is ready to offer the position, but he failed to ask the failure question. And he's not looking for like the proximity pattern. He has not talked to anyone who has actually worked closely with this person under pressure. But the dude's got vibes. And he likes the presentation. He likes the energy. All of which, again, can be faked. Now, it's going to last in the calm weather, right? Pete thinks they're perfect. They got great energy. The members love him already. And what else do you need to know, right? Pete, you need to know about their character and a couple other things. Because you never know when that person you got into business with is going to open a gym that is 800 meters from your gym and then move that gym another mile away and be infamous for sleeping with all of their clients and all of the other clients at every other gym. And then when they're offered help, turn around and be like, no, I don't like you, because they're blaming you for something else. Not that that person actually exists. And I don't know why that bringing that person up would provoke any sort of memory of anybody specific. I don't know. It's thought-provoking, isn't it? Anyway, you need to know the person before you get into business with them. You need to know the person before you get into bed with them. You need to know the person before you sell to them. And character is the most important thing. So, let's recap. Character is the single most reliable predictor of any long-term success in anything. It's not intelligence, it's not talent, it's character. Pressure will reveal someone's character. And anyone can hold the mask in calm weather. The stakes, the higher they are, you're going to be able to show who the person is underneath. That question about the failure, the tragedy, that is your tool. Tell me about a time that you failed. Look at the 3 responses. Did they hide? Did they pass the blame? Or did they own it? Or did they own it and find a way to resolve it? Accountability is the willingness to confront a person's reality and contributions to that reality. The person who cannot face their accountability is choosing blindness. And blindness makes them more untrustworthy when it matters the most. And proximity. If you're really close, you're going to see all the cracks and the flaws. If you're further away, they'll probably give you a pass for a lack of character. In the next episode, episode 5, we're going to get into the elusive object of desire and why things and people we want most are usually the ones that we can't have, or the ones that seem that they don't want us. And what that means and how we can apply that to your business and your brand. This has been a long one, but if you're into it, subscribe, share this. The comment section is open. I'm sure y'all got a lot to say about this one. You can find us at enochmarketing.com. Book a call with us if you're ready to build something around people of real character. I'm Colin Charles. This is Enoch Marketing, and we will talk to you soon.